great to be here today. I am really excited to be, this is the first time I've presented at Practical Cartography Day, and I am thrilled to be talking about Allmaps to do so. My talk today is about how you can use millions of historic maps for whatever you want, whether it's work or pleasure. And I should preface that with acknowledgement to a large team of people who are not here today, but who also worked closely on everything that I'm going to be talking about. Notably, colleagues at the American Geographical Society Library at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, my colleagues at the Leventhal Center at the Boston Public Library, and then, of course, Bert Spaan and Jules Schoenman, who are two of the core lead developers behind this project. So has anyone been to the Leventhal Center at the BPL? See a couple hands in the audience. Amazing. If you haven't, please come through the next time you're in Boston. We are the third largest public map collection in the United States. We've got about 250,000 maps in our collections. This is a picture of what you see when you walk up to our gallery. And we have a lot of those maps online. We've digitized about 14,000 maps. Combined with a number of other excellent digital map collections across the U.S., like the Library of Congress, David Rumsey's map collection, and the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee's map collection through AGSL, we're looking at over 200,000 maps digitized and available to use. So I think of this digitization as a public good. Obviously, we can engage these materials in a lot of different ways with software like ArcGIS Pro and QGIS, but I want to dwell a little bit more in what we can do with them from an open source perspective today. So this is where Allmaps comes in. Allmaps is an open source set of tools focused on creating and curating georeferenced maps, editing them, and specifically here I've flagged that they're focused on IIIF maps, or maps that conform to the International Image Interoperability Framework, which is a protocol that I'm not going to go into detail about today. But it's important to be aware of it as a high-resolution, deeply zoomable image transfer protocol that's widely used by libraries. Every library that I highlighted in the slides a moment ago uses the IIIF protocol. And that means you can use all of the maps in those collections with the Allmaps set of tools. The core functionality of Allmaps is converting pixel coordinates to geospatial coordinates, and vice versa. You can actually go backwards or reverse from geospatial coordinates into pixel coordinates as well. This little snippet of code is basically a bunch of JavaScript that would let you get started with a minimal working map overlay using some Allmaps plugins. We might commonly call this georeferencing. For folks in this room, I'm sure you're familiar with overlaying maps using control points. You probably use a lot of tools like ArcGIS Pro or QGIS to do it. Let's make some noise if you love using QGIS to georeference. Amazing. You're going to like it even more with Allmaps, I promise. Even for seasoned users, these tools can be cumbersome, right? You have to download software. For folks in this room, you probably are familiar with going through that process of accessing maps, big 100-megabyte image files or whatever, creating geotiffs. That process requires a lot of derivative and duplicative file saving, and of course you have to bypass that first step of what do I do with QGIS, or how do I get an ArcGIS Pro license? The big goal behind Allmaps is to make it easier for anyone to get started georeferencing. And I just want to highlight allmaps.org. If you want to follow along, there will be some opportunities for you to do so. This gives you a nice introduction to the key components behind Allmaps. Working with IIIF maps, built on open standards. The way that Allmaps works under the hood is by warping maps in a browser, in the client side of a web browser. Instead of taking an image and creating a second image, usually a geotiff that has spatial data, Allmaps is using that IIIF protocol to take maps in library collections and overlay them in a client's web browser using spatial data dynamically. So you're not actually creating any new files, you're just building on and leveraging existing materials. Now that we have Allmaps, I mean, we can do this before, but it makes it much easier for anyone to get started georeferencing the hundreds of thousands or even millions of digitized maps that exist well beyond the 4 collections that I just listed. With Allmaps, it's all about the georeference annotation, which is a data specification created by the IIIF community. There's an incredible group of people working on building and writing and promulgating these standards. The georeference specification looks like this. Yeah, it's just a big bundle of JSON data, but I think folks in this room might enjoy knowing or sort of like recognizing, as you look through here, you can see pieces of metadata like what object the map that we're looking at is a part of, where it is in the collections. We can see things like the transformation type, polynomial. And of course, in these features, you can see probably the most important things, which is the control points, or the ground control points, which effectuate an overlay. You can see the pixel coordinates here, 3301 and 1770, coordinate to these spatial coordinates in the real world. And you make enough of these, you can overlay a map. This data doesn't just stay inside Allmaps. I think this is actually the most important thing. It's highly interoperable. And highly open. So if anybody wants to go download thousands and thousands of georeference annotations, map masks, you can get them as a GeoJSON. You can do whatever you want with them. They're all published. It's about 150 megabytes right now, but hopefully it'll keep on getting bigger and bigger. But this is just on the Allmaps website. You can get started by loading an annotation into Allmaps Viewer. Here is a map of Louisville that I georeferenced yesterday. You can zoom in, pan around. Gives you a nice little glimpse into what the city looked like in, I don't know, the 1880s. You can toggle things like opacity very easily in Allmaps Editor. Can make it slightly transparent. My favorite part, though, is using this little like background removal toggle, which picks out pixel thresholds and allows you to actually overlay a map and just visually see like certain thresholds of color. And I'll show you an example of why that's super useful and handy in a moment. You can also make one with Allmaps Editor, and this is where we're going to sort of go rogue, and I'm going to do my best to georeference a map for you on the fly. Here's an index map from Louisville, where we are. In order to do this, you need to find something called a IIIF manifest. For any collection that has IIIF compliance, they usually publish this on the object collections record. You can see it here at the Library of Congress manifest JSON. So I'm going to open this up. Government shutdown in case anyone missed it. We can scroll down to the bottom here, manifest JSON, copy link address, and then we'll head over to Allmaps Editor, paste that in, and it loads immediately. Why don't we make a little mask? We can do just a simple one to mask out the collar of this map, and I'll bring it back there. Now we've got our nice mask. Once it's made, you can still drag it and change it if you want. Okay, but now we're going to georeference it. So I'm going to head over to Louisville. There we are. All right, and we are going to use some stuff that I wouldn't normally use, I don't think, to georeference this map. We're going to use this island here. I'm going to head down to this kind of looks like, I can use that, maybe. And then let's go over to the left. I like the points to be pretty well distributed. We can do West Louisville, and we can do that right here. Main Street, Main Street, Main Street, Main Street. There should be like a georeferencing like speed competition. You see, all right, and then you check the results. Wow, I did great. Yeah, not so good, but you can see just how easy it is to georeference a map. If I had, 15 more seconds, maybe it would be okay. You can adjust these, of course. We can make it look a little more normal if you go like this, and then the results will update dynamic. So, that looks a little better. This is Allmaps, right? The editor and the viewer are the two core apps in this ecosystem, but they're not the only ones. And I've got 5 minutes, and I have a lot more to talk about, so I want to get back to my slides. Allmaps is for a lot of people. I'm going to go through some communities that I think it's useful for before I wrap up. So Allmaps for GIS. If you use GIS desktop software, you can use Allmaps. Here's a map of Louisville from Wisconsin, Milwaukee's collections. Grab that manifest. You can open it up right here. And we can see this one has already been georeferenced, which is very nice. It looks much better than the one that I just did. If you come down here and grab that georeference, or no, it's the XYZ map tiles. Every Allmaps map is automatically created with some XYZ tiles that you can load into your GIS software of choice. I tested it with QGIS, and here we have a nice XYZ tile layer loaded into a QGIS project. Allmaps also provides plugins for Leaflet, OpenLayers, and MapLibre. We made this little Allmaps compare tool at the Leventhal Center just so you could sort of arbitrarily load any georeference annotation and compare maps side by side. So here's Boston. You can see how much this landscape has changed. It used to be a little peninsula. It would be flooded at high tide. Crazy. We love historic maps. So that's Allmaps for GIS. Allmaps for educators. You can use this, I think, as a really wonderful teaching tool as well. We published an article with some students and a professor at Brandeis University sort of diving into their close research and study into historic Waltham. And you can see here, Allmaps Viewer really nicely embeds in blogs and digital publications like this one. We used some Sanborn maps from the Library of Congress, and one of the reasons that I love this project is because looking at Sanborn maps with Allmaps using this background removal, if you kind of get the threshold just right, you can really start to see the palimpsest-like map paste-ons, right? The edits that people made to Sanborn maps after they had been initially published, because the material is just a little different color than the base map. So you can start to see fun things like that pop up. Jules Schoenman, who's one of the lead developers, also made a fantastic project called the City Atlas. It's a really impressive digital humanities tool that looks at the Netherlands. It uses Allmaps tools, both the viewer and the editor, and the developer-facing tools to annotate and overlay some old maps in Amsterdam. And that code is open source if you want to check out the City Atlas app or even make your own for wherever you're coming from today. Allmaps for community. Jan Trachet, who's another historian in the Netherlands, did this massive mapathon using Allmaps to crowdsource this huge, this map of historic Netherlands. It's really a painting, and of course you can see it takes up this whole wall. It's a really, really big image. They broke it up into little chunks, and they had about 50 people come in and do some 2 days of georeferencing until they got this thing finished, creating hundreds and hundreds of georeferencing control points, ultimately overlaying this map, and sort of became emotionally invested in the process as well. So I think they learned a lot in doing so. And I would be remiss to mention mapathons if I didn't call out Adam Cox's incredible work with a tool called Old Insurance Maps, which he built for georeferencing Sanborns. He has actually published a little plugin that scans that formats all of the maps that he has overlaid and that folks who use this platform have overlaid so that they can be opened in Allmaps. We could look at this key map. We could look at the main content. This will be a fun one to see if it works. This is still sort of beta mode, but the reason that we can do this, right, we can post this little URL here and open it in Allmaps is that this conforms to the georeference annotation. So as long as you have conformant data, you can upload it. You can upload anything to Allmaps. It doesn't have to be saved to their server. This is a pretty big map, so it's going to take a long time to load. We'll skip it for now. All right. Lastly, Allmaps for anywhere. There's some great tools you can build with Allmaps, like Allmaps here. This is here.allmaps.org if you want to check it out. You can go here as long as the location is enabled on your phone. It'll find maps near you. This is kind of a cool looking one. I wonder what this is. From David Rumsey's map collection. It places you on the map. You could send it as a little postcard if you want to friends to share your location. It'll bring up a little highlighted image of the map. And this is a great example of that reverse transformation from the image space or the spatial data back into a source imagery. You can also go there with Allmaps. We could search for Lexington, Kentucky, which is where I went to grad school. It's great to be back in beautiful Kentucky. We could open this up and sort of use the query in the URL to position Allmaps here. The API supports geospatial queries, which is why you can do that. And you can also read more about transforming backwards into pixel space from spatial data. All right, the last one is Allmaps for fun. I'm sure I'm very close to time, so I'm just going to leave you with Allmaps Arcade. Yeah, I am. I'll leave you with Allmaps Arcade, arcade.allmaps.org. Put the georeferenced maps back where they came from as quickly as you can. If you get a perfect score, Bert will buy you a beer the next time he's here, hopefully in NACIS 2026. So I think that is all I have, or you can go to Delft and play the cabinet that they built. That's all. Thanks, folks. It's great to talk to you about Allmaps. I'm happy to take questions later on.